Welcome to Plato's Cave. How are you, Linda?
We're all managing the insanity as best we can. I did this Trump stickers on every gas pump I arrive at. I hope people are ordering theirs so they can do likewise.
Well, let's start with some happy news.
Good idea.
Tulsi Gabbard has announced that she's resigning as the Director of National Intelligence, presumably, or not presumably, but allegedly, because of her husband's ill health, which I'm speculating is a result of JFK Jr. treating him.
Probably true, but I do think Tulsi Gabbard was never really in charge of intelligence because
She has none.
precisely.
Yeah.
But it's a good piece of news. I'm sure we'll get more background on it as the story unfolds. But for right now, it's nice to know.
Yeah, and it's one more incompetent person out of public office for a while.
Yeah, but, he's going after the women first.
Always.
Yeah, true.
There's nothing new about that.
What was I thinking? Well, today we're going to explore, for one thing, what's going on in the bond market and how it affects the Federal Reserve. And you've always thought that was a dry subject until you started listening to this podcast. And now you know it's just fascinating. We're going to revisit the question of Marco Rubio as a jock. And what are some of the topics you wanted to draw our attention to?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump's revenge tour against Republicans who have crossed him and him getting them defeated in primaries, and as a result, they're voting against him in Congress.
Yeah, isn't that a clever strategy?
Yeah, I figured that one out.
Yeah.
And it apparently is working so well he wants to do it again. There is the issue of the Federal Reserve moving forward in response to last week's record high bond yield prices.
Okay.
And what that means and how markets react to this. Most of what's going on is speculative, but it's chaotic and
Okay, so
such
we're
disturbing.
we're gonna revisit our own economic chaos.
Yeah, so
And I wanted to walk us through the AI status. Elon Musk losing his lawsuit.
yeah.
I was going to call this the Battle of the Titans, but I want a word that's comparable to Titans that actually means giant jackasses. I don't know that our language has given us one.
Battling buffoons.
Well, they're worse than buffoons. These are really nefarious people.
Yeah, but they're stupid.
Battle of the Stupid Titans. Battle of the Stupid Titans. Okay. And then I wanted to discuss Sam Altman, against whom Elon Musk brought the lawsuit. He's in charge of OpenAI, and it's the first of a series on him. Let us turn to Elon Musk's losing his lawsuit against Sam Altman. Now, Musk sued Altman, claiming Musk invested heavily in what became OpenAI in 2015 on the grounds that it was to be a nonprofit. Musk told Altman that the total investment ought to be $1 billion and that he would cover whatever other investors did not. In court filings, he claimed he had invested $38 million, which was 60% of the startup's funding. Musk left the company in 2018 because it had become a for-profit instead of serving a public good. This is where I started to giggle.
What?
Yes, he wanted it to be a nonprofit that served the public good, but I'm sure all of the people he fired from their federal jobs are very interested to learn that he has any interest in the public good.
Well, let's just take a step back here. Elon Musk is imagined in the popular imagination to be this entrepreneur on the cutting edge of technology.
Uh-huh.
He bought those companies.
Yes.
He did not create the technology that they use, though he does have some competence in that area. And I would suspect the reason he wanted OpenAI to remain nonprofit is because he wanted to get into the for-profit end of it didn't want it to be a competitor.
Well, that's part of it, and certainly legitimate, because when he left, he started his own AI. It's called XAI.
Shocking.
I know you. I know
Shocking.
you'd be
And what an
surprised.
original name.
Yeah.
This tells you everything you need to know about the man. He can't think up a name.
He probably can't sign his name. Isn't that why people used to use an X? Just a mark. Well, Musk claimed, I love this part too, that he had been assiduously manipulated by Altman's long con, or that Altman had exploited Musk's concerns about the dangers of AI, so that, he wanted to save the world. Altman claimed that... Altman claimed that Musk supported the change to a profit-based enterprise and that Musk left because he could not gain control of the company. So that's when Musk started his own AI company. And the claim by Altman is he wanted to undermine a competitor. So there you go. What a group of happy people.
Yep.
This month, a California jury did not rule on Musk's claims, but found that Musk had waited too long to sue under Californian state of limitations law, so the judge dismissed the case. I mean, I was happy to hear that before I knew anything else about Altman.
What's interesting is that these guys can't afford a competent lawyer.
So let me tell you about why Sam Altman isn't really a very nice person. Last month, in the April 13 issue of The New Yorker, Ronan Farrow and Andrew Marantz published a long article about Sam Altman. Now, just to remind you and our listener, Farrow's investigations into Weinstein led to his ultimate arrest. In other words, Ronan Farrow is an investigative reporter of some merit. He's done a lot of investigative reporting. It's always good. Andrew Marantz has published investigative articles on the far right, how social media shapes democracy and disinformation, propaganda and viral content, especially in the 2016 election. The title of the article is Moment of Truth. Sam Altman may control our future. Can he be trusted? The full-color, full-page visual by Savid Zouder shows Altman with 12 heads, and the quote from the article under it, some colleagues of the OpenAI founder believed, as one said, that he shouldn't, quote, have his finger on the button. Close quote. Now, my conclusion from all this is that Altman is a two-faced con artist who could charm the birds out of the trees and should no more be trusted with developing OpenAI than you can trust a 3-year-old with a loaded gun. So what I wanted to review was the extent to which he did con people into believing that he was highly altruistic, but he's not. So the original mission for OpenAI was part of what is called the effective altruism movement. Have you heard of this?
Nope.
Well, it's kind of a strange combination of philosophy and charity researchers at Oxford. And the Effective Altruism webpage defines the mission in this way. Effective altruism is a project that aims to find the best ways to help others and put them into practice. It's both a research field, which aims to identify the world's most pressing problems and the best solutions to them, and a practical community that aims to use those findings to do good. Now, their notion of how you find out the best way to help people is unnerving because they think it should be based on rationality, and they look to utilitarianism as the definition. So, yeah, and that's wonderful. Anyway.
Isn't that evocative of the actual original critique of utilitarianism when philosophers came up with the notion of the utility monster?
Yes, which you described to us so brilliantly.
Yeah, is Sam Altman the utility monster?
I think that may be it. I really do. I think you've hit upon something here. Now, Altman's OpenAI accepted $30 million from the agency, their foundation, called Open Philanthropy. It's now called Coefficient Giving, one of the largest funding agencies for safe AI. Altman courted Musk by raising apocalyptic visions of AI being dominated by a for-profit megacorporation. He advocated the private equivalent of the Manhattan Project that would have safety as its first requirement and compliance with any regulation. So Musk said that's why he put his money into it. After Musk left, Altman campaigned with his reluctant major AI scientist to go public and make him the CEO. He confided to Greg Brockman, his software engineer, that he, Altman, wanted to be worth $1 billion. It's a little bit different from what he just started out with. So the race then was on to develop artificial general intelligence. This is a hypothetical development that would create a system that could learn new tasks independently, reason across unrelated domains, transfer knowledge, and improve itself. So if you think about the computer HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey, that's it. HAL's goals eventually conflict with what is best for the crew. And that's the primary safety concern. When they talk about safety, that's what they mean. And there's a refinement to that has to do with the term unaligned artificial general intelligence, and I will explain that term in one moment. First, I want to point out that Altman attracted investors such as Musk and the others in the Effective Altruism Foundation by painting an apocalyptic vision of what would happen if AGI fell into the wrong hands or was not aligned with human values. That's called unaligned AGI. Well, he used to tell folks, China could use it to build a novel bioweapon or a fleet of advanced drones, or the AI model could replicate itself on secret servers so it could not be turned off.
Well, that happened with the Terminator.
Yes.
We solved that problem. In Terminator 5, I think, when somebody pulled the plug on.
I don't think I followed it all the way through to 5.
Nobody did.
I did follow the first one because he's naked. Am I misremembering?
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Naked as a Jay?
The guy started his career in a Speedo, so
yeah, I know. I know.
He just lost the Speedo, or at least I didn't take a photo of it.
I'm just reflecting on what I used to watch the movies for. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Sorry about that digression. Or AI might seize control of the nuclear arsenal or the electric grid or the stock market. Let me give you an example of the turmoil that was caused by this interest in shifting away from the nonprofit status. So we have Altman out scaring all of the investors into investing in him because AI is going to be so dangerous and destroy the world, while he's trying to turn the company into a for-profit. Dario Amodei is an AI researcher who questioned the drift from the original OpenAI mission. He wrote a mission statement that if another company came close to developing artificial general intelligence, that is AGI, before OpenAI did, then OpenAI would seek to merge with that company. This was Amodei's notion of how to assure AI was developed for the good of all humanity. In 2019, Amodei was the lead negotiator for a $1 billion investment from Microsoft. Amodei presented Altman with a list of safety demands, and the merge and assist clause was at the top of that list. Altman agreed. But then he went behind Amodei's back, granting Microsoft the power to block any mergers between AI and another corporation. So the pattern that emerges is that Altman knows how to tell people what they want to hear, but then he goes on about his business, which is to become a billionaire. Altman similarly conned a computer scientist who collaborated on an important paper in 2022 outlining the threat of what is called deceptive alignment. This would occur when a sophisticated AGI system appeared to have values aligned with human values, but really didn't. Altman recruited a graduate student whose name was on the paper with promises of endowing a prize to incentivize research into this issue of deceptive alignment. The graduate student took a leave from Stanford on the basis of Altman's promise that the research team would be allocated 20% of the compute. That's a new term for me. And what it means is all of the company's computer power. So the compute means the computer power of the company. The reality was that they were allocated between 1% and 2% and were given the oldest cluster of equipment and chips. In the fall of 2023, the board of OpenAI were sufficiently alarmed by Altman's focus on profit over safety that they fired him. He mounted a counter-campaign and was rehired. He abandoned at that time even the merest adherence to the questions of aligned AGI and declared that rather than being a deadly threat, it was a mere inconvenience. So an aligned AGI means that you this is all hypothetical since AGI doesn't exist yet, but in the hypothetical, the safety measures are built in so that serving humanity, whatever they think that means, is built into the system, that there's a fail-safe system. So he's moved from scaring people with his apocalyptic visions of what will happen if they don't invest in his company to declaring that the whole question of AI safety is just a trivial inconvenience. Now, next time, I'm going to have more to say about how OpenAI is entangled with the Trump administration, Jared Kushner's ventures into the Middle East, and its contract with the Pentagon. But now I want to turn this discussion over to Bill, because I'm hoping he will explore Altman's role in terms of Thorstein Veblen's theory of the leisure class, which was published in 1899. Now, let me set it up for you, Bill, with this quote from the Ferro Miranta article. Quote, Altman is not a technical savant. According to many in his orbit, he lacks extensive expertise in coding or machine learning. Multiple engineers recalled him misusing or confusing basic technical terms. He built OpenAI in large part by harnessing other people's money or technical talent. This doesn't make him unique. It makes him a businessman. Close quote.
Veblen was concerned in the theory of the leisure class about the consumption practices of the leisure class at that time. This is, of course, during the Gilded Age. And in a society that doesn't have a class society like the United States, where the ranks are not by birth but by income, then people differentiate themselves by making their net wealth apparent. And since we don't walk around with our bank statements stapled to our heads, the only way to do this is by appearing to have the wealth you claim to have, and then consuming in such a way that is consistent with that level of wealth, and then everyone knows that your claim is authentic.
Okay.
Of course, this is easily manipulatable, right? This is why Donald Trump is so concerned about the estimates of his net worth in Forbes and Fortune magazine, why he's always calling up anonymously trying to get it raised, because he's very concerned with status. So what Altman here has revealed by talking to his friend is that he wants to be a billionaire, and that's the goal here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what he wants to do is get a firm that's market value makes him $1 billion, and he doesn't seem particularly cared about what lines he has to cross to get there. Now, this does not make him unique. This, in fact, makes him prototypical, because Elon Musk does the same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, $1 billion gets you to the point where the only thing you can buy is another company, right, that's worth $1 billion. Nobody can consume enough stuff. Actually, even if they could, they couldn't afford the warehouse to put it in. So now, in capitalism, particularly neoliberal capitalism, we attribute creative power to the person who owns the company, not the people who actually produce the output
Correct.
of the company.
Yeah.
So one way to get very high status in the tech community is to buy a tech company. You don't have to know shit. Mm-hmm. You just have to have the wherewithal to buy up the stock, take over the company, and then you sit at the board and pretend like you know things, and you probably think you do know things, and the other people there realize that there's an idiot in charge. Mm-hmm. And it seems here that this former employee, or whoever it is they're quoting, has pretty much hit this nail on the head. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't know what is at stake in what he is proposing, because he doesn't understand the technology any better than you or I would, in a non-technical sense. He's probably reading press clippings from other apocalyptic writers like Elon Musk, He has no particular talent. He can't determine the direction except by telling engineers to do something, and he's going to tell them to do something profitable. And when we look at the various uses of AI right now, so far, they're pretty trivial.
Well, that is, in fact, why the race is on for AGI. Because what we have now is simple AI, mind-boggling as that statement might be, because the AI programs are written for very specific, well-defined tasks. Like if I go on ChatGPT and ask it, what was the price of rice in London in 1926? It can go find an answer for me, right? It's limited to that kind of question and response, and unfortunately, if you think it's your doctor or your counselor, it can kill you. But AGI would begin to generate other AI programs. It would not just replicate itself, it would make other things that were new and could do far more complicated and sophisticated things and could have ultimately get out of control. That's why the race is for AGI. If you want to know if I think it's ever going to happen, I'll talk to you about that next time. The costs are enormous.
Well,
but
not only that, I mean, I'm not convinced that such a thing is technologically possible.
that's what I'm saying,
It's
too.
like travel faster than light. Well, I don't think we'd survive it.
Yeah, I'm skeptical too, but that's a whole other issue. So my question now is, what has always moved me and impressed me about Veblen's theory of the leisure class is his discussion of the instinct for workmanship.
Yeah.
That is exploited by the people who, like Altman, just want to get rich off somebody else's ideas. So can you explain that?
Well, first of all, if you have a really good idea, like you want to write a book, you have to find a publisher.
Yes.
Right? That's the gatekeeper. That's where book writing runs into business.
Yes.
Okay? Almost everything is like, if you're developing a new technology, it takes plant, equipment, research, all sorts of expensive things. So you very rapidly run up against a budget constraint, and then you bring in private investors, and they don't need to know the product, right? They just need to know that it's going to, A, generate a profit, or, more importantly these days, generate status. Put them in the category with people who are movers and shakers, the next, Bill Gates, the next Stephen Jobs of their generation. Now they don't know shit like that. Those guys actually knew something about the technology they were working with. They don't need to. All they need to do is be the CEO of the company, and that status transfers to them. It's like the term entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneurship has to do with a new product, a new process, a new design, okay?
Yeah.
That's it. That's what entrepreneurship is. Every businessman in the United States thinks they're an entrepreneur. Every Avon lady thinks they're an entrepreneur. No, folks, you're just engaged in commerce, right? You're not doing anything new. This has been done 100 times before. Every time I see a real estate developer describe themselves as an entrepreneur in the United States, I can barely contain my laughter because the whole country was founded by Europeans who were engaged in real estate speculation. It's the oldest industry. I mean, there was real estate speculation before prostitution in the United States. They had to import the prostitutes after they began the real estate speculation.
Prostitution is not the oldest profession in the United States.
No, it's real estate.
And you're going to stand by that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, so what impresses me about, in terms of what Altman is up to, is that the instinct for workmanship means you want to, and you have the talent and the creativity to invent and create.
Well, it's really to do useful things.
That we all have that.
It's sort of a generic, to do useful things, Veblen used an interesting, to take pain to do something. Mm-hmm. Think of it this way. Every year, freshmen enter college. Mm-hmm. And they all proceed through the process of getting an education. Now, the assumption is the instinct of workmanship is involved here. They're all trying to get through college. They are not all trying to get through college with the lowest possible grade point average, okay?
Yes.
Some of them do.
Yes.
But that's not the goal. The goal is to get through the program in a successful way. Now, oddly enough, doing that takes a shit ton of work.
Yes.
The easy way is to take credit for somebody else's work. And that's what we're seeing here. And Veblen got into this in his second major book, The Theory of Business Enterprise, when he made a distinction between industry, actually producing things, doing useful things, and business, which is making money. They're not the same thing. He did point out in small firms at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the engineer was also the owner of the firm.
Yeah.
They actually knew stuff. Now, the owners are basically a small subset of the stockholders and the board, and generally speaking, all of their expertise is going to be in making money, and very little of it is going to be devoted to the technological aspect of actually producing whatever it is they're doing, if there is anything else they're actually doing. As we're both beginning to think here, this notion of generative AI may be just one more Sam Altman con.
Well, it's probably a Google con because they're the ones who started it, but this is the race. But see, what impresses me,
Like a race off a cliff.
yeah, I, the more you learn, the more you think, perhaps this is it could well be a boondoggle. If it's not, I guess it could destroy us all, but we're not there yet.
We are probably in less danger from AI than the fact that Donald Trump is in the White House.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that.
You know, we got bigger worries.
Yeah, right now. But the interesting thing about what happened at OpenAI is that Altman, using the money from Musk and other investors, hired the best engineers, the only people it was imagined could do these things, and flattered them by saying, you know, you're coming here because we're going to save humanity. We're doing this not for profit, and we're going to build in all the safety, and this is going to be a great advance for human beings. And so they believed him.
Yes. Yeah, and if, you know, you and I wanted to raise some money to start a foundation to cure the common cold and hire all the greatest pharmaceutical scientists and chemists and, yeah, and it still wouldn't work.
Well,
you know, and we now know why it evolves too fast.
Well, the reality is that the revolt against Sam was led by these advanced technology engineers, because they said, you're taking us down a road that you said you weren't going to take us down, and we refuse to be exploited in that way. So that's why he was fired. But then he came back and said, you know, I'm very, very popular, and lots of people believe in me, and so you need to make me the CEO. So they did. So it's really an issue of just once somebody says, I'm the talent here and you're exploiting me, and my answer is no. And then they actually attempted a coup and initially were successful. But I think the blandishments of the money at the end of the road is what got him rehired.
I'm not sure that's it. I would think that what might have been the case is a company that large needs constant infusions of cash, which means Sam has to get on the phone and call up other extremely rich people and banks and financial institutions to continue funding this, whether it's real or a boondoggle.
Right.
It's going to take in huge infusions of cash. And a group of engineers who just fired Sam Altman do not have the kind of connections to keep that money rolling in. So maybe they're going to do it. They're going to create it, and its first program is going to be to destroy Sam Altman.
Well, they did, develop ChatGPT, which has become very popular. And I do agree with you that what the conclusion is that here is a man who, as I said initially, could charm the birds out of the trees. There is something very effective about how he pitches things to people, and it seems very genuine. So he is the person that can get on the phone.
Yeah, he's the P.T. Barnum of AI.
I would say that's right. And I think that's what he was telling them is, so what are you going to do without me? I'm the one that gets on the phone. I'm the one who tells people like you what you want to hear. Too bad you found out I didn't mean it, but now what are you going to do? So,
well, if they want to have that experience, then, get grandchildren. They're much cheaper. They'll tell you what you want to hear, and all they want is a bowl of ice cream.
As I said, next time I want to explore how this has evolved into something that includes Trump, Jared Kushner, Hegseth, and this huge Pentagon contract. Oh, and Amazon. We must go back to Amazon, too.
Corporate hegemony is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it really...
It's pretty scary.
It is scary stuff. So
last time I suggested they watch Dr. Strangelove. I don't think they have.
No, probably not. But
or The Terminator. I mean,
well,
it's the
they
same
may have
story.
thought that Dr. Strangelove, was a story with a happy fairy tale ending.
BKA.
We'll all go to the cave. No, not going down on the... Not riding the bomb down like a rodeo star, but going to the cave where you have,
the competition in the caves.
Yes, and you've got far more women than men because you really need to replenish the earth. Well, I mean, maybe they think that's a happy ending. I'll tell you the other thing about this that's unnerving is how often the insiders compare what they're doing to the Manhattan Project. Like that's a good thing.
Like that's a good thing.
I mean, I think these people have the mental maturity of a 10-year-old. No, that would be libeling 10 years old. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll come back to that next time.
A couple days ago, bond yields went up to a level that they hadn't been seen in some times. Now, we got to review quickly what that means. Bonds are sold by the federal government or a company, and that's the original sale of them, and then that money goes to the company or the government to spend. But they are traded on secondary markets between individuals. The yield is the return on a bond that has been resold based on its price. So if the price of the bond is low and the interest rate's high, it's very valuable. If the price of the bond is high and the interest rate is low, then it's not very valuable. So the price of the bonds and the interest rate on the bonds, or the yield, move in inverse.
And the interest rate is determined by the resale value?
The actual interest rate, not the coupon rate on the bond.
Right.
Because you're not paying the full, if it's a $10,000 bond and you're buying it for $9,200, then it's a really good deal, if the interest rate stays the same. So on the resale market, people speculate in the value of these bonds. Okay. So when yields go up, that means that people are anticipating an increase in interest rates, or the bond market is anticipating.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and that then makes it difficult, and the stock market tends to respond negatively to the same information, and so you get a lot of variation in the markets. So this was very worrisome with Kevin Warsh coming in to the Fed, where he was expected to be pressured by Trump to lower interest rates in an environment where that would be imprudent. Okay, and would upset the bond market, which is not a good thing. Okay, this is generally a more stable market, and when it reacts violently to something, that tends to be a bad portent.
So the government would have difficulty interesting large investors and financial centers, and I guess sovereignty, in purchasing the bonds.
Right, they'd have to offer a higher interest rate.
I gotcha.
And that would lead to higher interest payments and the presumption that then higher taxes would be necessary to pay the interest on the debt, though that's not really necessarily happen. So this is a sign of incredible instability pushing in exactly the opposite direction that Trump wants. So this is worrisome, and there was some speculation that Warsh would be unable to accommodate Trump, and there was even some saying that he had no intention of doing so anyway, because he's been on before. In any case, this was all speculative, but today, of course, Trump has announced an impending peace, and the stock markets around, bond yields are going down. So our chaos machine is hard at work. And which means, as I recently told some of my colleagues, it doesn't matter what's going on. If you leave your job right now, you're crazy. It's like, as the economy is not going anywhere, you want to go anytime soon. Then, of course, Trump's triumph with the Justice Department coming to a settlement on his ridiculous and unwinnable
I just can't
$10 million
this.
lawsuit is the biggest graft we've seen yet. But we can talk about it next week, because I don't think the Republicans in the Senate are going to let this go by.
Yeah.
It's a step too far.
Well, I certainly and sincerely hope so.
They also stopped the funding of ICE temporarily, and the House had to withdraw a vote on the War Powers Act in the House because Mike Johnson thought it was going to pass, right, in the House.
Yeah, well, I think that's a wonderful development, and totally unexpected.
But they got to make the vote.
Yeah, they got to have the vote.
About it
well, of course, he'll do what he always does. He'll just send them all home.
Till 2028.
Well, I will close with one tiny bit of information that I promised. I promised last time to come forward and say if Marco Rubio played football, because he gave that football to the Pope. And he seems so wrapped up in the masculine symbolism of football. Well, the answer is he played football for 1 year at a community college. And the commentary on the Facebook promotion of this by the community college had comments such as, I understand he only suited up when he could get his picture taken. So the answer is no, he's living a fantasy.
Well, he's living a fantasy as Secretary of State.
Well, that's what I mean.
Lived a fantasy in the Senate.
He just, I don't know, it's sort of weird that he's so wrapped up in football. He never played it. He married a cheerleader, and he gave a crystal football to the Pope. Well, you can ponder that absurdity. We will say bye-bye until next time.
Bye-bye until next time.
Oh, it's going to be good.
Are we off yet?